Welcome to the Pineapple Perspective with your host, Troy Hooper. That's me. Usually it's always going to be me, I think. I can tell you for one thing, it's always sponsored by Pepper Lunch Restaurants. Check out the restaurants and the franchise opportunity at pepperlunchrestaurants.com. Today is a spectacular, I usually say special, a spectacular opportunity to speak to a legend in this industry. And in no small mention should it not also include a top female leader of this industry, because boy are there a lot of old white guys who've run restaurants, and thankfully diversity has found its way to the C-suite of this industry. But Kathleen's been doing this from the top for a long time. Ladies and gentlemen, Kathleen Wood is with us. Hi, Kathleen.
Hello, Troy. Thanks so much for having me here. And I just want to say to you, thank you, Pepper Lunch, for this sponsorship because I do love my pepper lunch. So thank you.
Yeah, Kathleen recently moved near our Tampa Bay regional store and has apparently been enjoying it quite a bit. So thank you for that. That
Well, I'm glad.
was not prompted. She did that on her own. She wanted to do her own infomercial for Pepper Lunch at the outset. So thanks,
It
Kathleen.
is darn delicious. I have to tell you, I mean, that card speaks the truth. I'm like unsolicited. I love going there.
That's amazing. Look, let's get right into it, Kathleen. Before we even talk about who you are, where you came from, what you do, and what you're all about, we want to ask you, what does hospitality mean to you?
I personally love hospitality. And I was thinking about this, that it's always been a part of who I am ever since I was a little kid, practically. And when I think about it today, in my mind, it is this taking a transaction and transforming it into a human connection, or taking a transaction and in today's digital world, transforming it into a connection. And that connection can lead us to loyalty, to memorable experiences, to things that shape our lives. Because when I think about hospitality, and when I really think about the restaurant industry, we're one of the few industries that is really there for a person at any stage or anything that happens in their life. We're there for the good times, the bad times, and even if it's a Monday. And the restaurant industry, there's not a lot. You can't say that about tech companies. You can't say that about everybody, but you can say that the restaurant industry is always there to serve you, no matter what the life event is that's happening. And I think it comes back to that. We all want and we all value connections. And I think that's what hospitality is to me.
That's absolutely beautiful. I love that. Nobody's ever said it exactly like that. Turning transactions into connections. I just that's going to sit with me for sure. You're going to hear me say that again in the future. Kathleen, where does that come from, though? Right? Where's the impetus? How did you come to believe that that's what it means to you?
I'm gonna take this back to my first and second job in the hospitality industry. I was a very young, hyperactive kid, and I had done the paper route, done all that babysitting, and I said to my mom one day, "I'm gonna go get a job," and she's like, "Oh yeah, you go get a job," and I was like, "I am gonna get a job," and I ended up walking to this restaurant called John's Pizza in Addison, Illinois, and I was able to get the job because literally I could walk to it, right? And what I learned there was it was a family-owned business, and grandmother worked there, the cousins worked there, everybody worked there. But one of the things about John's Pizza was it was all about family. And when I started working there, I had a great family. So when I started working there, though, it was like the first time in my life, like something lit up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I am going to be in the restaurant industry for the rest of my life. I love it. I love the energy. I love the movement. It was perfect for a hyperactive kid. But I also loved the idea that we were all connected. And, when you think about hospitality, the origin of the word is Latin for meaning both host and guest. And when you think about in the restaurant industry, we are both host and guest at all times, right? And so that's where I got my passion for it. And then in my second job, I actually worked for McDonald's back in the day when you wrote people up for not smiling at the counter because they were very strict about those things. And that's when I learned about how you could take hospitality and systematize it and how you could now, train people to deliver that. You could help people become better at that. And you could really help both the team member experience and the guest experience. And those two first jobs, at the time, I didn't realize it, but one ignited my passion and the other one ignited my purpose. And they stayed, those two became a big part of how I made decisions the rest of my career on where I would go and what I would do.
That's amazing. I love that story. I would love to have worked at McDonald's first. I started at Bennigan's at 16. I would have loved to have worked at McDonald's. And by the way, by the time I'm working at McDonald's and I'm 50 years old, the damn company's already 40 something years into it, probably. So you imagine walking in and they still got that thing, they still got the whole essence, the original. Yeah, now we're generations down the road, obviously, but
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. A lot
So
has changed.
yeah. So Kathleen, let's do this. Somebody listening to this, I doubt very many of them, but somebody listening to this might not know who you are. Let's talk a little bit about who Kathleen Wood is, where she comes from, what she's done, and what she does now.
All right. So I like to think about my career like the trifecta. The first part of the trifecta was I had a great run of it in operations. I started as a dishwasher and worked my way all the way up at one point to be the first president and CEO of Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers. So I have a very solid background in operations in every single role of operations. And that was an amazing journey, right? And so that was the first part of the trifecta. The second part of the trifecta was that I had the wonderful opportunity to work for some amazing organizations. The Educational Foundation of the National Restaurant Association, where I was part of a team that introduced Serve Safe to the whole restaurant industry. Carlson Hospitality, where I did non-traditional development of TGI Fridays in airport stadiums and arenas. And then MasterCard, where we really brought out, how to make things priceless, right? And in that middle trifecta one, that's when I realized that I loved building businesses, but I was truly not wired to be in a large corporate environments. I was the no pain, no gain person because I wanted to move. I made a lot of money for everybody, but I also did not quite have that temperament to sit in long, long meetings. So what I realized though was there was another opportunity coming. And because I love building businesses, because got to see that big businesses got access to big resources, that I knew I wanted to work with founder-led businesses, great people who wanted to do great things, who wanted to do great things with their businesses for the long term. And I thought if I could bring big business solutions to small founder-led businesses, could those founder-led businesses accelerate their growth and do positive things for our industry? So early on, over 20 years ago, I started Kathleen Wood Partners. I was very fortunate that my early clients have done extraordinarily well, which has helped frame it. But over the last 20 years, have worked truly with great people who have and continue to build great businesses. And that's what I really thrive on is how do you, because when you think about founders, founders are the backbone of our industry. Without founders, where does innovation, adaptate, where does all that come from? So to be able to be a part of that and then to watch them grow and still stay true to who they are, it's a powerful and very gratifying experience.
Well, and you really believe in this founder journey mindset because you wrote a book, Founderology. You are the host, creator, and host of a great podcast. If you're not listening to this, if you're listening to this one, you must go listen to hers, but you can't stop listening to this one. You have to listen to both. Can't abandon me and go pick Kathleen because she's better. I promise you, she's a lot better at this than I am. She's got some phenomenal guests and has amazing conversations. So there's a podcast called Founderology, which you can find everywhere. So this idea of the founder, and you have this real interesting point that you pick them up and take them, or they're ready to move from this founder run or founder operator to really founder leader, founder led business. So the business is ready to grow. The business is scalable. It just needs this founder leadership over working in the business. We got to get them working on the business for growth. Talk a little bit about your mindset around that and how do you bring that to life? How do you guide that?
Yeah, I think so when I started my consulting practice, one of the things was I'm a wildly competitive person. So I wanted to be great at being and back 20 years ago, that was not a popular field. Everyone thought I was giving up on my career and I wasn't, but I really wanted to be great. So I studied greatness. I studied the psychologist, I studied the sports teams, I studied the businesses, and I was really looking for that DNA of greatness because I thought if I could bring greatness in consulting and my clients brought greatness in their passion, purpose, and vision, collectively, we could do great things together. And it was there I started to build our model, which we call the power of one, which is the basis of when you have extraordinary clarity and alignment around your vision, your team, your direction, and the systems that support that to execute your brand and your culture, you are essentially unstoppable. And when you look at that power one, those six, we call them the six factors of greatness, but when you look at that and you get that applied at a when an organization is so big, you're building that into the DNA of that organization. So as it grows, that clarity, that alignment grows and evolves with it. And it actually becomes the accelerant for scalability. Because a lot of people fall off the rails because they lose sight of what they're doing. They don't keep up on their brand. They try juggling too many things. And we try to get clear, aligned so that we can scale with it. And that's how we take founders from being founders who are opening restaurants to now founders who are building a company that can open restaurants and open restaurants successfully and with a scalable model.
Yeah, it makes me really think about in history, it's McDonald's, it's
Mhm.
Chick-fil-A, so it's Ray Kroc, it's Mr. Cathy, it's in your ecosystem, it's Todd Graves at Raising Cane's. It's just that person who says, I don't care if it takes 100 years, I'm going to put one foot in front of the other, and I'm going to push this forward. This is going to happen, right? And in that you get this thread, this ethos, this DNA that is virtually unbreakable. Of course, you get to 30, 50,000 stores. I don't know. Maybe some of these brands have lost some of the way, but boy, has Chick-fil-A still maintained it at 3,000, right? At 3,600
Right.
restaurants. So I think what you're saying, I mean, it just builds highly resilient, long living, moderate growth. It doesn't have to be speed. It just has to be constant moving forward brands and businesses, right? Just all in all. You know, Kathleen, you mentioned before we got started recording, I wanted to illuminate this because I sort of do what you're doing, but not to the degree you're doing it. You talked about studying inside other industries, that you don't just do restaurants. While you have a huge and successful career in the hospitality side, you really do bring this mindset and this vision and this systemization process to other industries. What do you learn when you spend time with founders and operators in other industries and you spend time around these other cohorts? What do you learn that you can bring back to hospitality groups that we can learn from?
Right. It's so fascinating. I've been very fortunate to work in healthcare franchising, right? Or .coms technology, or even I had an amazing opportunity to work with a museum design and build company, where they're literally building the museums or they're architecting the opera center. I mean, it's just stunning. And, but I've also worked in medical fields and things to that effect. And so there's a couple things that I find. I think that founders, one of the reasons why I love working with founders is founders see things that no one else can see. So as long as you're not seeing, that's why I wrote my book too, because I was like, look, stop telling the founder they're crazy. This is insane. Remember the last time you had this idea, it didn't work. Like, hey, pipe it down and try to embrace that maybe it's your opportunity to expand your vision, right? So I think that's number one is that I love working with people that have that visionary mindset to themselves, right? Whether it be big or small. But the other part about a founder led business in other industries is that they're all looking at different ways to grow as well. So maybe they have a technology that works. Maybe they have a system that they use. Working with a museum design build, that's really a lot about recognizing the creative process, about asking questions that go deeper than just the superficial. So when I think about applying that process to the restaurant industry, it's about finding out more about really what makes that customer tick. Why would that customer come visit? Because they have the same situation. Why would that customer come visit a museum? And they have the same challenges. If it's not an experience, if it's not interactive, I'm not going to that museum. Same issue with the restaurant industry. So for me, it's a lot about, staying top of the game, staying relevant, keeping our team relevant, but also there's things in the restaurant industry that are very transferable into other industries too, similar to healthcare, medical sales, things like that. So I just find that it's a great way to sharpen the sword, but it's also a great way to always be bringing back best practices to push the envelope strategically, but to push the envelope strategically to give my clients a competitive advantage.
Yeah, I concur. Look, I've been at least two or three conferences or executive summits a year I go to that are multi-industry. Not necessarily excluding restaurants, but definitely not led by the hospitality side. And while I shake hands, say hi, take some pictures with my hospitality friends, make no mistake, I am having drinks with, dinners with, and finding quiet corners to talk to the people that are not in this industry. Because I say to people, if we just live in our bubble, right? And as a consultant, having a consulting firm like yourself for many years before, it's the outside perspective that is the value. Like, I got to go get some outside perspective here. And
Right.
maybe it is about franchising, but franchising in other industries. What are they seeing? What are they running into? How are they overcoming? How's it different? Maybe we can apply that to be different and competitive in our, in the hospitality side of franchising or something else. But I love, but it's just interesting too, right? You and I talk to restaurant people all day, every day, only about restaurants. So it is kind of nice to get out of the bubble just for your brain too. But I just find that, as you said, these perspectives, these best practices, the reality is I've done that for many years because the restaurant industry tends to move slow or
Very
adopt
small.
things more slowly. Now we've hit a good little pace here with technology, but I just think overall we're really slow to adapt our systems and our process and our presentation, our model, just aren't as playful. We're getting a little bit better at it now. But boy, some industries are they'll just flip it on a dime and try something totally new. And that curiosity and that courageousness that I find in that space invigorates me. And hopefully it brings me something that I can bring back to my role or to help the industry as well, right?
That's one of the other things I do. Like, I travel a lot like you too, Troy, and so I'll find it like, if I have free time, I go to a Barnes& and Noble, right? Because it's still open, and I go into the magazine area, and there's magazines I would definitely pick, like Entrepreneur, Success, all of that, because those are great. Those protect me, but that's not what I read. I read everything else and things I don't have any knowledge about, and it's not because I'm trying to become, like, omnipotent. It's more because I'm trying to see where people are right now. What are the hot issues? What are the hot topics? Because when you're working with a diverse clientele, you have to be able to tune into their language. It's not about my language. It's about a common language and a shared vision for success. And so, always just kind of seeing what's going on, I also think keeps you relevant. And to your point, you can find some things that accelerate on, like, especially in today's AI world, that can accelerate you on such a further path. Why wouldn't you want to be the best for the people you're working with?
Yeah, speaking of AI, I was on a panel last year in a multi-industry environment, and one of the gentlemen on the panel was in this industry, the blinds to go, blinds, ordering blinds online for your house business, and he had acquired a lot of small regional mom and pop versions of this business and then franchised it under one or two different, names. But he had hired this AI company like 3 years before, and he was on stage, and the things that AI was automating in his business and the intelligence that he was able to give his friend, I was in absolute awe. And thankfully, I had somebody on my team that works in AI. And while we're not moving at that speed, I did get to know this company that provides this as an outside service. They're a dev shop. And what they built for a blind manufacturing company in the Midwest, by the way, who's national, international, and it was just mind blowing. To that point, it's just like, wow, you are the equivalent of 10 years ahead of the restaurant industry because you're probably 2 years ahead of everybody on AI as a tool within a business. This was just absolutely mind blowing. So it's fascinating to see how another niche industry or very niche business within a bigger industry can be much more innovative and move more flexibly and have more flexibility into their business. So pretty
Oh
fascinating.
my gosh. Well, that's exactly what, if you want to, if you're like I am, like I said, wildly competitive, I want to bring the very best to my clients so that they are out there, winning every day, every way. And I do think the restaurant industry has been a laggard in adoption. But to your point, Trey, I think we're going to start to see some things. I think we're going to start to see people that have embraced it. We're going to see some gaps now, I think. And I
Yeah,
think that
younger founders of smaller brands who see the
have to
future
start it.
and they're thinking, what's their 30-year horizon versus what some of these old dudes' 30-year horizon looks like. So,
It's
yeah, I agree.
right. And how do I make that go faster? And
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
"Yep,
they
I'm
move
right there
fast.
with you."
They're more fearless, that's for sure. Okay, let's talk a couple of meat. This is the meat and potato. This is the middle of the program. Let's talk about restaurants and hospitality. Let's talk about guest experience. What is your position when you think about the guest experience as the business driver, as the new currency in our industry? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this one, but really
Fantastic.
my definitive thought is that I think that the guest experience is the new currency in today's environment. Look, as the economy continues to be dynamic and the consumer continues to contract their spending, they're not going to stop going out to eat. They're going to continue to go out to eat, but they're going to be a lot more looking for that value of the experience. And I think that, one of the things that we've seen, and I talk a lot about this, is with the advent of all this technology, especially in a post COVID world, we've done an excellent job of giving the consumer, I counted at one point, at Domino's, there's 15 different ways to order a pizza from Domino's, right? So there's 15 different ways. They've done a good job of figuring out how to service those 15 different ways. But there's other concepts out there where they've given people 10 or 12 ways to order, and they still have one operating platform that they're trying to order it. So you give them a great opportunity to order, but your ability to execute is so bad, and that's where, to me, this idea of this finding this balance between the physical and the digital world today, so that if you really take that transaction and you make it into a connection and you think about it that way, everyone would be looking at rewiring their customer journey to align with what the customer experience is. And I think a lot of people are looking at a lot of data, which is very important, but you can look at all that data. And if you still have a very unhappy team member working at the counter, that data doesn't mean anything at that point. So I think in my mind, it's now finding a balance that team member experience has to be great as well as the customer experience. And together, when they're both great, the data and all of that will support that, but the data should not overrun the fact that there still is execution that has to occur.
Yeah, I mean, the consumer has shown us, right? They've contracted on footfall, on frequency. They're spending more, less often. So when they come to you, they're making it a more experiential, more complete, less value driven decision in
Right.
most cases, but they're coming a lot less often. And so you have to win the day. And when the guest thinks about, where should I go? What do I like? What do I want? Food's a commodity, and as specialized and unique as Pepper Lunch is, it's just another hot, fresh, tasty meal. So we win out a lot against other people in that category. But what else, right? Okay, now we're an experiential fast casual, in and out in under 25 minutes for under $25, and there's something to it. All six senses of your body are engaged in our dining experience. That's great. All right, that's unique, but it could be a novelty. It could wear off after a while. What else, right? And so
Right.
recently we decided to go Phygital. I love you using Phygital. I haven't heard anybody else use
I
it
love
in the context of our world, and I haven't actually used that word to describe what I'm about to say, but it's right. What you said is right. The across counter customer ordering transactional cashier experience was not good. It was never good. No matter what we were going to do, and I'm just going to say this to everybody, no matter what you do, it's never going to be fantastic. Chick-fil-A's figured it out. In-N-Out's pretty good at it. Raising Cane's not so bad at it, but it's really very few people you can name have knocked this out of the park, right? So what's the alternative? Well, we're going to put machines in, and people go, well, what about the hospitality? Where's the human? Where's the human connection? Where's the service there? Well, what we did was created a hospitality host. And I always give credit to Sean Walchef. That's his term from his restaurant during COVID. But it's a greeter plus an ambassador. It's a passionate person who knows the menu, understands the concept, and has the ability to have empathy for the customer as they walk in the door, and can say, this is your first time. Okay, let me break this down for you. We're going to try and make it simple and interesting. Let me show you on this digital kiosk, right? Oh, you've been here before? Fantastic. What do you usually get? Oh, this is what I usually get. Have you ever tried to put garlic chips and mushrooms on it? It's so much better. Try that. Boom, set them on their own, right? So it's this personalization. And then that person's standing there. They're available. If the kiosk isn't as intuitive, or they get lost, or they want to figure out how to do something, they're there to answer them. They're not left on their own. And so again, Phygital, there's a physical human being giving attention, showing care, expressing hospitality, but we're really using the digital interface to drive the results. And here's the answer to all the people listening. Our average ticket's up over $5.50. In one store, it's $5.68. Our average plate is $1.68 to $1.71, up in the first 4 or 5 months of these things being out there. Our customer sentiment has gone from food, sizzle, hot, shareable, Instagrammable, to the customer sentiment is number one word is friendliness now in our brand. To describe Pepper Lunch, the number one word used to describe Pepper Lunch today is friendliness, service, hospitality, It goes on and on. It has completely changed from the commodity of food and experiential dining to, wow, I didn't expect to get service and hospitality and friendliness and a smiling face and information, but I got something I didn't expect. And so that unexpectedness is catching the guests off guard in a very positive way. So I would just use that story to encourage people.
I would just hope that everyone that's listening to this podcast just takes notes on what you just said, because that's what it's by design. It's hospitality by design, not by default. And
Correct.
I think when we think about this digital world, everyone is taking it from default. Well, the customer will figure this out. The customer will figure this. Yeah, okay. The customer doesn't want to spend all that time figuring it out. They want to have a great experience. And again, I'm just going to say this because I am going to call out Pepper Lunch one more time. When I went there for the 3rd time, and I had been there randomly, I'm just gonna say this, and I used the kiosk, and you're absolutely right, all the statistics show that when you have a kiosk and a hospitality ambassador, your check average goes up, people spend more, and I also believe because of human behavior, people don't if they wanna order a lot of food, they don't wanna, like, be tell like, if I order a lot of food, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I have 6 people at home," it's just
Yeah.
me still, but,
Yeah.
so it just takes some of that awkwardness out of it, right? But the most fascinating thing was when my order was ready, the hospitality ambassador did actually bring me this card, right? And I didn't ask for the card, but he brought the card. And what blew my mind in the car was when I turned the car over, he had punched that I had been there 3 times. And I was trying to figure out, did he know my credit card? How did he do it? But he knew me, not because of my order or anything, but he knew me. And that blew my mind because this is over probably 2 months of me going there 3 times. And that, to your point, that's what makes me tell the story. That's what makes me tell others. That's what makes me a brand ambassador because it's a true story. That's why we tell the stories of Chick-fil-A. That's why we tell, and in my mind, Troy, it's exactly what you're saying. It blows my mind that you can give the customer 12 ways to order a product, but yet you make your team members operate from one operating system that was designed for, dine in only.
Right.
And then you wonder why they're upset and you wonder why you get bad scores and you wonder why. My God, go into your restaurant. Like there's so many concepts I want to call it. Just say, have you been in here to see what they're going through? But just go into your restaurant and design the connection for hospitality, both digital and physical, and then where they meld together. Because to me, those are the people that are going to win. They're going to win big. And as this gap of technology gets bigger, those companies that figure out the phygital experience and can deliver, like you're saying, Troy, and I've experienced at your restaurant, you're set up to win. And the people that are like, no, we're just going to keep doing it. Okay, well then you sit at home with your phone with that's still on the wall, waiting for the rotary phone to ring, because this thing, the business is just moving too fast. And the other thing that people have missed is that we've had a whole shift in our consumer base. So today's consumer base is very comfortable with a phygital experience, and in fact, they enjoy that. So why not lean into the 60 million zillennials that are out there and capture more market share?
Yeah, I mean, you got me worried that, we had to create a new channel on YouTube and put parental controls in. I have a 4-year-old, 4.5-year-old, is about to be 5 at the end of September. I mean, he's still 2 months away, but about in the last 2 months, he figured out the remote. We kind of always sort of controlled the remote. I didn't
Yeah,
really want him to learn the remote. Boy,
yeah.
oh boy. This kid could probably order things online with this single laser pointer
Oh,
remote in his hand. He is
yes.
natively digital. There's no doubt.
Yes. I mean, I know my little grandnephew ordered on, he had the iPad and off he was with, with the Amazon and he ordered a Traeger grill. I was like, okay,
Oh
what's happening
God.
here, man? But I think this is my mind blowing thing. This is coming. It's just like Christmas. It comes every year. This is coming. So why would you wait until December 24th, which sometimes I do, but why are you waiting to say, well, I'll just wait and see how this AI thing plays. I'll just see how everything plays out.
No, yeah.
The time of waiting to play out has kind of it passed you. It's that part's over. Now you got to jump in.
Awesome stuff. Great conversation so far. Let's talk about I love to do like real world tactical, practical stuff. You're working in and out of hospitality. You're working with restaurant groups of decent size that these are not emerging small struggling brands. These are folks that have figured some things out and are ready to go. Talk a little bit about one, two, three, doesn't matter. What are kind of top challenges today that you're helping them lead the conversation through change or adaptation or evolution of their operating model, workflow, employee experience, whatever it is? Talk about a couple of things that other people are probably thinking about, struggling with, or not sure about, and that you could shine a light on.
I think one thing that we've been talking a lot about lately is organizational absorption and more importantly, operational absorption. There's a lot of technology coming out. There are a lot of tools coming out. So at the office level, you can get very excited about those. You could see the power of it. You could see the potential of it. And, so you've got a lot of enthusiasm and you've got a plan that says we're going to implement all these. But that's like a big funnel trying to get into an operational, funnel, right? To a smaller funnel. So one of the things we've been talking about lately is the pace and lead effect. Like, yes, we do want to roll these things out, but at the same time, we really want to make sure the operators can absorb them, understand it, utilize it, and use it to the effectiveness that we're looking for. So that's, so one thing that we've been trying to balance through strategic planning is to say, okay, look, let's plan strategically where all this is going to rest. And then let's build the bridges and the infrastructure so that it goes out and the operations can absorb it and actually use it and see the value and the benefit of it. So we don't fatigue because of the speed. You don't want to fatigue the operators with constant rollouts.
Yep.
So I'd say that's probably number one. The second biggest conversation we're having is I fundamentally believe that we have a labor crisis because we have a leadership deficit. And when you look historically at the restaurant industry, which I love, still think it's the greatest industry in the world, but before COVID, we were in this kind of like, let's get more efficient, and we eliminated layers of management, because we were going to be efficient, more effective. And then in COVID, we obliterated it, and then we were going to put it back after COVID, but then we couldn't put it back after COVID. So really, as an industry, there's been a generational miss of people really being developed as leaders
Yeah.
in areas like critical thinking and interpersonal skills and things, how to deal with, conflict. So we have this deficit of people. We have people in leadership roles with a deficit of leadership skills. And I think that is what drives like everybody says, well, we have because people don't work there. And I'm like, well, look, people don't want to work for someone who's not prepared to be the leader. That's true in life and football and anything else, So we really have to start thinking about making investments back in leaders. And that's a big thing that my clients and I talk a lot about. Let's invest, let's hire the right leader, and then let's invest in those leaders, because it used to be that you couldn't scale because of supply chain. I think you can't scale today because of a leadership
Yeah.
deficit.
100%.
So that's kind of my second one. And then my third one is really coming back to finding this balance between the team member experience and the guest experience, because we got you got to keep that balance there, doing everything for the guest and then doing nothing for the team member, and I see it. I travel, you travel.
Yep.
We don't have to name brands, but you can totally see where the equation is so far off, and it swings the other way too. So I think having that, looking at those operational checklists, those store visits, and not just looking at it to say, are they in compliance and following the system, but really looking at it more of, what is the experience looking like for everyone in the ecosystem? And it doesn't have to be 50-50, but are we keeping it, in harmony?
Yeah. Look, all problems lead back to the humans' interest and willingness and skill that you've given them. Just had this meeting with one of our franchisees and just continuing to encourage them. You have to invest. All of our franchisees, you have
Yeah.
to invest. You're going to open 5 stores in 3 to 4 years. You have to have a pipeline, not only of people that know how to do this job, then that job, then that job, but then beginning to be leaders. And what does a manager look like? And this conversation was, your managers are being employees. They're being shift workers, not shift leaders. They're not orchestrating or composing or managing or head coaching this environment. You or they have scheduled themselves to work a role, and that is not leadership. And here are all the problems that we see as we visit regularly, that are coming from that. And if you make a mindset shift, you will see oh my God, they made a mindset shift. They started really focusing those managers on quarterbacking rather than running running a lift. Holy moly, the reviews went through the roof. I'm getting phone calls, text messages, photos. User generated content is through the roof in like the last 3 weeks. Like all of a sudden, amazing what happens. Sales go
Yeah.
up, satisfaction goes up. Oh, employees are happier? We're having more fun at work now? Incredible, right? So easy when you see it, right? But if you don't see it, I totally empathize. If you're sort of in this drone and in the same old, one foot in front of the other day after day, totally get it. You're not going to see it.
Wait, Troy, you're onto it though, because it is about a mindset, right? Like when I hear people, they're like, "It's a grind." Okay, I get it, but is it a grind because you're grinding yourself out, or what's the cause of the grind? And that's why we spend a lot of time with our clients on strategic planning, on leadership development. We know I had a great leadership development program with a colleague of mine, Jamie Griffin, and we offered this 6 and 12 month leadership development program. And the people that went through it, turnover down, everything you said, satisfaction up. Several people got promoted because all they were missing was a couple of skills that just separated them. And so we as an industry, and I'll say this at large after being in the industry for decades, but it's time for us to understand that even with the greatest technology in the world, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, do you have somebody that can lead that ship and that business? And if you don't, it won't matter how much technology you have.
Yeah, 100%. Because there's not going to be anybody there,
Yeah.
and you're going to have this struggle. Yeah, for sure. Kathleen, talk a little bit about your stuff. Kathleen Wood Partners, finding your book, finding your podcast. Tell everybody how they can continue to absorb your wisdom and your experience on an ongoing basis.
Well, Trey, we spent a lot of time thinking about the most clever concept, the best name for our business. And of course, it defaulted back to myself with all that market research. So everything is in Kathleen Wood Partners. So you can find me at, kwoodpartners.com. You can find Founderology podcast, Built to Break Through, on Spotify, iHeart, fastcasual.com. My book you can find on our website at kwoodpartners.com. And anytime you can get a hold of me at Kathleen at Kwood Partners. Always happy to have a conversation or a discussion.
Look, folks, we all have mentors. We all have people we look up to. We all have to learn from those who've done more, bigger, and better than us. Kathleen is one of those titans of this industry that I look up to and that I follow and that I listen to. And whenever I can be in the room and just stand by and listen to her conversation, it's of benefit to me and to everybody in this industry. You'll do yourself a big favor if you start following Kathleen. And if you need help in your founder-led journey and you're ready, give her a look at her website, see who she works with. And if nothing else, I always say this and people always ask, what do people have to do to go to the next level? And the answer is ask for help, right? Just raise your hand. Listening to a show, great. Listening to a series of podcasts, great. Chat GPT, great. But ask for help. The folks out there who have been there, done that, and some have formalized it into consulting practices and other books and writing tours. There's always an opportunity to walk up or to reach out and say, this is my question. Can you help me? I'm stuck. I'm locked. I have a hurdle. How do I get over this? We are all in this industry, in it to win it with everybody together. It's a community, and no one brand is going to be the only restaurant left on the planet. So there's enough room for everybody. But I'd encourage you to check out Kathleen and learn from her as well.
Troy, thank you so much for those kind words. Seriously. And thank you for everything you're doing, with Pepper Lunch, with the podcast, with how you give back so generously with your time. I've been a big fan of yours for a very long time, with the words of wisdom you share, and the people on this podcast sharing their words of wisdom too. I mean, it is fantastic. And you're right. No one has to do this alone. It's definitely, we build more unity when we are a community. So thank you for everything you're doing to help build and keep that community healthy as we grow.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathleen. Great to have you. We'll certainly have you back another time, and looking forward to seeing you out there on the road. The fall conference season is near us. So looking forward to sharing a glass, having a cheers, and catching up with all things that are going on.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Troy. And I'm going to go get another stamp on my card now too.
All right. Just so everybody understands, she knows that a stack of these free on me cards are coming to her. Kathleen's getting the CEO free meal cards because I did not realize how often she was going, and I cannot let her keep paying every time she goes. So I'm going to buy her a few meals as well.
I'm happy to support same store sales. So it's always good.
Thank you so much. All right, Kathleen, thank you so much. We'll see you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you for listening to The Pineapple Perspective. If you loved today's episode, leave a review and a 5-star rating. I look forward to welcoming you back next time.